This happened to me during my first year of university, in October. I was living in the dorms and I need to give you a brief rundown of the dorms. You need a key card to gain access to your specific floor, so even though someone on the 3rd floor and 4th floor live in the same building, they can't access each other's floors. I had injured myself playing sports, so I was under orders to rest, which meant no Halloween parties for me. Pretty sad for a horror fiend like myself, but to try and make the time a happy one, I busied myself helping to make costumes for people and doing their makeup. Once I was finally finished, I packed up my makeup and decided to watch some movies in my room. A guy popped up and introduced himself. We chatted a bit and exchanged email addresses, and I walked back to my room and said goodnight. The first warning sign was that he walked into my room behind me, despite me saying I was going to walk into my room. I felt really awkward and tried to say in a roundabout way that he needed to leave, but he wasn't getting the hint. I finally had to say, "You need to leave my room now." I chalked this up to him maybe being drunk or something, but I did wonder how he got onto my floor if he wasn't with anyone partying. Before I went to bed that night, I checked my email and there were 5 from Creep. The first being, "Hey, I'm so glad we're friends," and the rest asking why I wasn't online. A few days later, I got a knock on my door when I was studying, and it was him. I explained that I was studying and needed privacy. He tried to walk into my room again, but I braced my arm in the frame and said firmly that I needed to study. The next day, he was at my door again, and the next. I began pretending that I was not home. Another day, there was a knock at the door, and when I checked the peephole, there was no one there, and I assumed the postman had come. I opened the door, and lo and behold, it was the creepy guy. He has begun hiding from the peephole, so I would be more likely to answer the door. I told my roommate never to open the door if he was there, and I told people living on my floor that this guy was beginning to creep me out. So, if he wanted to get on the floor, whatever sob story he gave them, don't let him on. A few days after that, I was on the bus coming home, and I got a text from someone who lived on my floor telling me not to come home because Creep was on my floor and was sitting in front of my door, just waiting. I went to a friend's house and spent the night, and when I got home, I was told he waited for 4 hours before leaving. At this point, I was getting freaked out. A few days after that, he began waiting outside the building, and if I left, he would follow me wherever I went. I was too spineless to tell him to go away, and I tried to be more passive about it. I never spoke, and never gave any indication that I was paying attention to him, but he followed me to class, the cafeteria, and always tried to follow me home and get access to the floor. I went to the resident advisor, an older student that sort of watches over the floor, and told her what happened. She spoke to the RA for his floor and was told that Creep had been telling his own RA that we were best friends and dating. My RA tried to explain that I was uncomfortable, but the other RA believed him, and that was that. Thankfully, one thing did deter him. He would never approach me if I was with a group of people, so my floor mates banded together. If I went to dinner, I went with my floor, and if I wanted a drink or seconds, someone had to come with me. Walking to class and even waiting for the bus was done in a group. He got onto my floor once when someone else was coming home, and he forced his foot in the door to let himself in. I was hidden in another room, and when he left my door to go and sit in the television lounge to wait for me, I went downstairs and ran around to the other side of the building and got into my room before he noticed. And the phone calls began. I never gave him my number, but he somehow obtained my mobile and room phone, and at first it would be 1 to 2 phone calls a day until I told him I wanted him to leave me alone. Then the calls began coming in every hour with him begging and pleading for me to talk to him. Without caller ID, I needed to answer the phone because of the school and my part-time job. At this point it was November, and I was a wreck. I was tired of having to plan out doing simple things like going for food or walking to a bus stop. Stress wasn't helping me recover from my injury, and I was losing weight and I just looked sickly. I went back to the RA and begged her to help me. She went to the head of the dorms and explained everything that happened. I explained how far this had gone, and my roommate told them that he had followed her a few times, demanding that she tells him where I was. I felt awful. She never told me this because she was afraid of upsetting me further, and I felt like I was an asshole for putting her through this garbage. I don't know what went on behind closed doors. From what I guess, he was told to leave me alone, and my further contact would result in him being kicked out of the dorms. There was one email where he went insane on me, telling me how awful I was. How could I do this to him? We were so happy together. Surely I was cheating on him with other men. After that, nothing. At first, when I'd see him around campus, I would run to the women's toilet to hide. I'd see him around town or on campus and he'd always just stare at me. Never try to approach me, never try to get my attention. Just staring. I used to walk by and try to pretend I didn't notice him staring, and I tried to act like my heart wasn't pounding. A little backstory. I'm a 20-year-old short, petite female working at a subway, and I can't help but be nice to anyone even if they creep me out. I feel bad usually. About a year ago, we had this guy, 35 to 40 years old, who would come in every day for lunch. He was fascinated by my stretched ears and few piercings I had on my face and always asked questions. He would sit down after I rang him out and watch me from his table for 2 hours non-stop, just staring at me while I was helping other customers. This goes on for about 2 weeks. Every day he would ask me for my number, saying he has plugs and tunnels he wants to give me and see me wearing them in my ears, and I always politely declined. One day I'm alone in the store because my manager had to run to the bank. We were really slow that day, so I was just in the back room messing around on my phone. I heard the door chime, looked up, and yet no one was there. And I saw a man walk past the front of the store really quickly, like he was in a hurry. The store phone rings. "Thanks for calling Subway, how can I help you?"
"This is the girl with the nice ears, right?"
Yes? Who is this?"
"Are you alone in the back room right now? Are you working by yourself?"
At this point, I really got creeped out and knew it was him. I hung up and texted my manager the situation so she could hurry back. He called again, this time asking me very weird questions, like what I would do to him in a room with the door locked, if I had a boyfriend, why I was playing hard to get, etc. My manager gets back and I tell her everything. In the middle of the lunch rush, he calls again. This time my manager answers, and to this day she never told me what he said, but the look on her face made my spine shiver. She told him if he called again or showed up here, she would call the police. I thought that was the end of it, but alas, I was wrong. 1 week later, I'm clocking out and getting ready to walk to my car, parked in the front, and when I look outside, I see him just standing by my car and looking inside of it. I was an idiot and left the back door unlocked. I watched him crawl inside and shut the door. The creep was trying to hide in my fucking back seat and do God knows what to me when I got in. My manager locked the front door of our store and called the police. When they arrived, they had to pretty much drag him out of my car, and he was arrested. On him was a butcher knife, rope, and a rag with chloroform on it. If I hadn't looked up when I did, I would probably be dead right now. When I first moved into a new place in a new town, I had left home one evening and accidentally left my garage door open. I texted husband to tell him so he could go home and close it. He gets there and tells me it's not open. That's strange, but okay. The next day, I'm taking my trash out and my neighbor was outside. He introduced himself and told me that the night before he noticed me leaving and that I left my garage door open. So he went inside and closed it, and let himself out through the front door, only locking the doorknob lock. Then he sent me a Facebook friend request. I'm assuming he looked at mail on my counter to find out my full name. After this, he wrote me poems and saved them to my doors, left gifts on the front porch, made crazy Facebook posts about a woman he was in love with who was forbidden. By the way, I'm married. One Saturday night, I came home really late, and I was finishing my cigarette outside of my garage before going in. He was sitting outside in a chair, blistering drunk. He approached me and started talking about someone named George. I had no idea what he was going on about, and confused, I asked him if he had company. He walked into the garage and came out with a box containing George. George was his stepdad, and he was dead. The ashes were in the box. He caught wind of a trip I was going on via Facebook and invited himself along. I politely explained that I'm married and all of his wacky behavior was unacceptable. A few days later, I had gone on a walk with my husband and we left through the garage, leaving the door open again. He messaged me on Facebook and told me that he left a gift for me in my garage. After I got back from the trip, he showed up at our door at midnight, totally drunk and banging on the door. We moved shortly after. An ex-boyfriend who I dated for a grand total of 3 weeks got really attached in those 3 weeks and told me he loved me after we had sex. I told him I was flattered but didn't reprocreate. I decided to break up with him soon afterwards because he was way too intense. I told him this and then the abuse began. He began texting, calling, and Facebook messaging me all the time. It varied wildly what he'd say, begging for me to come home / come over for sex, graphically detailing how he hoped I would die, telling me what a slut I am, etc., etc. I blocked him from my phone and on Facebook and Snapchat after he ignored my request to stop contacting me. He began messaging me for the accounts of mutual friends, without their permission I later found out, and leaving me about 10 voicemails a day. He even got hold of my work email, which I never gave him, and sending me long paragraphs in which he would bounce wildly between lamenting his love to me, diagnosing me with various mental illnesses, which was everything from bipolar disorder, depression, anxiety, MPD, and Asperger's syndrome. It was a new one each time. He dragged up the one time we had sex into this, and telling me that I was broken because why would I not want to be with him? I ended up getting a new email to use at work because it turns out you can't block someone from emailing you. I once again sent a simple line in reply. It just said, "Stop contacting me." He wasn't done there. He had previously been text messaging me, which he was blocked from doing. He found out that my MacBook can receive iMessages from his iPod Touch using my personal email address, which he did have. So here come the e-messages, mostly dick pics he found on 4chan while calling me slut and whore, and taking screenshots and posting my angry and distressed replies to his friend's group chat. Screenshots of this group chat got sent to me, thankfully. The mutual friend in the chat was actually sticking up for me. Everyone else was telling him to have hate sex with me. I ended up turning off the iMessage function on my Mac altogether, so he couldn't do it anymore. Again, I asked him to stop contacting me, this time threatening legal action to stop it, which he allegedly thought was hilarious. I ended up going to the police and they gave him a call, telling him that they knew what was going on and that stalking charges would be pressed if he kept going. It told me to text him in front of him and tell him the call was coming. His reply made me angry beyond all reason. It said, "Stop contacting me now, bitch. I've had my fun." I didn't reply under instructions from the police, but I went home and threw things around in anger for about 10 minutes. I haven't heard from him since, on the bright side. August 2001. Like most freshmen, I live in the dorms at a state party school. A good buddy from military school, Bill, went to the same college and lived a few floors below in the same dorm as me. For the most time, the first month or so of college was normal. I went to most of my classes, partied just about every night, chased girls around, and that was enough for the moment. But things began to change one night, sometime in mid-September, and college for me would never be normal again. My dorm phone rings in the middle of the night. Hello? On the other end, I can only really describe the voice as the kind you picture when you think about a computer talking. Kinda like the early model car GPS.
Hi, Gary. How are you today?
Not fully awake, I'm just confused at this point. Who is this? He repeats.
Hi, Gary. How are you today?
It becomes clear I'm being fucked with, so I hang up and chuckle. Fucking Bill. Nice one. I pass back out. I end up forgetting about the call for a few days and never mentioned this to Bill or anyone else. About a week later, I get another call around the same time of night.
Hi, Gary. I'm watching you.
Nice. Very cliche. Seriously, Bill, how are you not knee-deep in Everclear or a Tri-Delta this hour? Enough already. Kate is going to start getting pissed. I hang up. Kate is my roommate, by the way. I casually confront my oh-so-clever amigo at breakfast the next morning. He gives a genuinely confused response. Whatever. So a couple of days after second call, I come home and see I had multiple messages on my answering machine. What the fuck? I barely knew that thing even worked. It's computer voice guy. Message 1. My machine cuts off first 1 to 2 seconds of message, which tells me it's a bot set to play a message upon answer.
Hi, Gary. I'm watching you. Message 2. I thought I asked you to answer my calls, Gary. Message 3. Where might Gary be on a Tuesday night?
The calls start coming more frequently over the next couple of months, starting at once a week, then to once every 2 to 3 days, up to every day by Christmas break. Uneventful break, and back to school, determined to become a new man. I get my first spring semester call from CVJ.
How is your family in Cyprus?
Okay, now this is fucking bullshit, man. Calls become threatening and downright dark.
I'm very interested, Gary, in being close to you. I have tools I can bring. It is going to all be over soon.
One day I bring Bill and all my other buddies up to hear the messages. Never deleted a single one for some reason. The guys are in shock. Around March, the calls were coming in no fewer than 10 to 15 every single day. Seriously. But I finally get the message I've been waiting for. The day, time, location are set.
We will meet in front of Coleman Hall at midnight Wednesday, 27 April, and we will take our friendship to the next level.
My home team crowd steadily build up throughout the afternoon and evening. I'm left with about 15 to 20 member platoon. I had decided earlier that I was not going to allow all these knuckleheads to shadow me, but I could definitely use them in case of emergency. I didn't want to risk him spooking out of the meet, so I let them know they will have to stay inside the doors of the common area while I walk out to the meeting spot. 1. Some kind of a small quick movement in front of the walkway that goes all the way around the building. And 2. The movement was in a spot along the walkway where the only normally uber bright bulb is out. Not exactly sure how I was able to see him, but I suddenly realized someone was crouched behind one of these contiguous cookie-cutter bushes outside the perimeter against one of the building pillars. In dark clothes and a hoodie, he's a few feet off from the path where I'm supposed to meet him, and positioned to where I really should not have been able to see him, given the pillar blocking any shadow plus the burned out, I later found out, smashed light. In fact, I could have easily walked all the way to the door without ever have noticed someone down there. Sort of jump mid-step as this happens. I see him rise up and step toward me, and fight or flight hits. Before I realize what I'm doing, I'm in a dead sprint towards this motherfucker, who I'm guessing sees what I can't yet, which is my platoon busting through the glass doors in hot pursuit. Creepster nopes the fuck out of there, running on the long side Coleman Hall toward the parking lot. I realize I'm moving fast enough to catch him, but everyone else is really far behind. I also realize I'm moving so fast I won't be protected as I turn hard right at the corner of the building. If he stops there, I'm toast. As I turn the corner, I see the van sitting alone in the parking lot in front of me. It's running and brake lights flicker on, then off. Park into drive and begins inching forward toward the exit. Homeslice is of course heading for the van, which for some reason sent this whole new level of fear into me. This is it. This is really happening, and I'm going to get fucking murdered tonight. But I can't stop. Something keeps me moving forward. I guess I'd come this far, dealt with this crazy BS for almost a full year now, completely unable to do anything other than try to ignore it. If I could get close enough to drive tackle, I would still be on my own to deal with the creepster, his driver, and now I realize there's a third one that was manning the sliding side door. Awesome! I don't care how badass you think you are when you're a 19-year-old jock, your chances of taking down 3 grown men that are already violent criminals and prepared to victimize are about 1 and not gonna fucking happen, buddy. My turn is wide and slow due to being full on sprint, and I lose ground. I'm probably 20 yards from the lot when he does a flying leap into the side of a van. There couldn't have been any rows of seats for a leap like that. Creepster number 3 slams sliding door shut as van peels out of the parking lot, bangs a right, and gone in an instant. We finally start walking back, and I'm reliving the scene as we retrace our steps. As we get closer to the original meeting spot, I see something that scares me more than anything else in the entire equation has up to this point. On the opposite side of the pillar where Creepy McCreeperson was crouching, there's a video camera sitting on a stand pointed right at the spot I would have been standing at when I should have not been able to notice him. It was still recording. Hi there, thank you for watching. If you wish to see more videos like this, be sure to click on the playlist link down in the description. If you'd like to see more, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell. If you'd like to get in contact with me and send me your own stories, there's a link to my Discord and email in the description. See you next time.